Hello and welcome to Spectrum News. My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Tinubu admits to U.S. envoy that war is not ideal for Nigeria's economic reforms. Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moino cautions state community leaders against limiting government largesse to members of ruling party. Plus, Putin says Wagner mercenaries must swear allegiance to Russia. Details of these stories and more in a moment. First in the news, Governor Umar Eno has cautioned community leaders in Akwa Ibom State against limiting the government largesse to members of the ruling party, as he reassured of his commitment to bringing the government closer to the people at the grassroots. Governor Eno gave the assurances while addressing members of his ward, Ibiakpan Obotem Ward 2 at Ikorekbana Udo, Nsirubium local government area during a statewide maiden ward meeting of the People's Democratic Party PDP after the elections. The governor and leader of the PDP in Akwa Ibom State described the meeting as a forum to unite the party, expressing gratitude to the people at the grassroots for their support to the candidates of the party during the elections. He extended his gratitude and that of all who were elected on the platform of the PDP to members of the 329 wards across the state and assured of continuous parley of his government with the grassroots. The governor, however, admonished that leaders and members of the PDP at the grassroots should endeavor to embrace all in the community and share the goodwill of government with them as a means to foster peace and unity in the state. Speaking further, Governor Eno used the occasion to reiterate that the state government will ensure utmost transparency in the distribution of both federal and state government augmented palliatives, stressing that the distribution should be based on village identity, particularly gazetted villages devoid of any political party sentiments. Also speaking at Ndukbuise, the Ubium North Ward 3 headquarters, the governor thanked the people for the tremendous support to the party in the elections and encouraged all party faithful to remain optimistic of reward. Earlier in his speech, the Ibiakpan Obotem Ward 2 chairman and chairman of Nsirubium Ward Chairman Forum, Ukmong Michael, had thanked the governor for keeping his promise of coming down to the people at the ward level. By this, he said, Governor Eno has exemplified his position that all political officers return to connect with their constituents. Government House correspondent Jainoa reports that the ward chairman said the people of the 11 units of Ibiakpan Obotem Ward 2 and indeed Nsirubium people were proud of Pastor Moino's conduct and performance in office within his few months in office as governor, and expressed optimism that he will not disappoint the people at any time in his administration. Meanwhile, Akwa Ibom State Governor Pastor Moino has taken the lead in keeping the state clean to avert the 2023 flood predictions outlook by the Nigerian Meteorological Agency NAMET, as he participated in the August statewide environmental sanitation exercise. Addressing the press at the Park Road by Uranka in Akat local government area, where he actively participated in desilting the gutters, Governor Eno said it was time to be deliberate about keeping Akwa Ibom clean and ensuring free flow of drainages to save the state from the forecasted threat. He acknowledged the cooperation of the Eket Local Government Council with the Akwa Ibom State Environmental Protection and Waste Management Agency, ANSEPWA, to achieve the huge success recorded in the August environmental sanitation exercise, and commended leaders and citizens of the area for ensuring compliance. The governor stressed that Akwa Ibom people are known for hard work and cleanliness, declaring that the era has come for all hands to be on deck to ensure the state's serenity and good reputation as cleanest in Nigeria is maintained. He said with the NIMET alert, the cooperation of all residents by doing their bit at their various corners has become needful, warning that the state government through relevant agencies will be out to evoke existing laws against defaulters and institute new regulations where necessary. Earlier, the ACSEBWA chairman, Prince Ikem, had commended the proactive disposition of Governor in governance and more so leading by example. This, he stressed, underscores the governor's seriousness in ensuring the practicability of his policies, as already demonstrated in the desilting of drains on Atiku Abubakar Avenue in Uyo and floating a sanitation pilot program in Awet House in Uyo. Ikem assured of ACSEBWA's readiness to enforce the governor's orders to the letter in accordance with the law established in it. He said the agency is set to mobilize its enforcement officers to inspect and serve abatement notices to defaulting residents to clean their vicinities and desil their drains within stipulated time, after which they will be made to face the law, which may include payment of fines and still being compelled to do the needful upon failure to comply. On his part, the chairman of Ekat local government area, Akaniyan Etome, expressed the delight of Ekat people for the privilege of having Governor Moino flag of the special environmental sanitation campaign drive in Ekat and thanked the governor for physically participating in the cleanup exercise. Government House correspondent Jane War again reports that Tome gave assurances of his council's commitment to sustaining the tempo of Governor Moino's rise agenda across all sectors in the area. On to the national scene now, where President Bola Ahmed Tinubu says war is not ideal for Nigeria's economic reforms amid the tension in Niger Republic. Aguri Ngelale, the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, disclosed this on Saturday following a meeting between Tinubu and the U.S. presidential envoy and Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Ambassador Molly Fee. Tinubu called on the U.S. to deepen democracy in the Western African sub-region through collaboration with the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. He explained ECOWAS remained committed to exploring all options for restoring democracy in Niger Republic. Meanwhile, President Tinubu has accepted an invitation to meet with the United States President Joe Biden on the sidelines of the United Nations General Assembly meeting. Aguri Ngelale, the special advisor to the president on media and publicity, disclosed this on Saturday in a statement after a meeting between Tinubu and U.S. Assistant Secretary of State for African Affairs, Ambassador Molly Fee. Tinubu reiterated that under his leadership, Nigeria will create an enabling environment for private businesses. He urged the U.S. government to be innovative by creating incentives for its investment in Nigeria. On his part, Fee said the U.S. government is committed to improving incentives for its large-scale investment in Nigeria, adding that President Joe Biden is asking to meet with Tinubu on the sidelines of UNGA and that he is the only African leader he has requested to meet, which he added is a mark of Biden's high regard for the Nigerian president's leadership. The UNGA 78th session will open on September 12, 2023 in New York, United States. More feats from the seat of power now, where First Lady Oluremi Tinubu has awarded scholarships to 46 Nigerian students in tertiary institutions across the country as the first set of beneficiaries of her Renewed Hope initiative. The special advisor to the First Lady on Media, Bushola Kokoyi, in a statement on Saturday said the beneficiaries were drawn from the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT. Kokoyi added that other beneficiaries were nominated by various women's societies, including the National Council for Women's Societies and the Defense Staff and Police Officers' Wives Association, DEPOA. The beneficiaries were unveiled at the launch of the National Scholarship Program for Tertiary Education held at the Presidential Villa. while urging the beneficiaries to take their studies seriously as their GPA will be taken into consideration in subsequent years. The First Lady also encouraged them to take on vocational skills. Away from that, the federal government has promised to take necessary steps to stem disaster-driven poverty in the country. The government equally promised to put in place a legal framework to reward and punish citizens for environmental use. Addressing members of the Ogun State chapter of the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations (NIPR), who paid him a courtesy visit at the weekend in Abuja, the Minister of State for Environment, Dr. Ishaq Salako, said Nigeria is currently facing a lot of environmental challenges from desertification, desert encroachment, land degradation, gully erosion, among others, and that something needs to be done to address the decline. He said the NIPR has a duty to play in sensitizing the people on waste disposal and the need to pay for disposal of waste. Earlier, the chairperson of the Ogun State chapter of the NIPR, Oluwaseun Boye, had promised to use the tools at the disposal of the association to project the activities of the Ministry of Environment. In a bid to curb oil theft and illegal refining of crude oil in the Niger Delta area, a presidential delegation inspected government assets in some states within the oil-rich area on Saturday. The delegation was led by Nuhu Ribadu, the National Security Advisor (NSA) to President Bola Tinubu. On the delegation with the NSA were the Chief of Defense Staff (CDS) General Christopher Musa and the Chief of Army Staff (CARS) Lieutenant General Taurid Lagbaja. Others include Minister of Defense Mohammed Badaru, Minister of State for Defense Bello Matawale, Minister of State Oil, Petroleum Resources Henneken Lokbobiri, and Minister of State Gas, Petroleum Resources Ekberikpe Ekpo. Also, senior management team members of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company (NNPC) Limited and other top security personnel made the delegation. In a related development, Minister of State for Petroleum Resources Oil, Henneken Lokbobiri, has said the federal government is committed to putting a stop to pipeline vandalism in the oil-rich Niger Delta. Lokbobiri said on Saturday, after inspecting an illegal facility in Delta State, they are there because of the problem of pipeline vandalization, believing that it has become an existential problem that needs to be fought to submission. Lokbobiri was accompanied by his counterpart for gas, Ekberikpe, the Minister of Defense, Mohammed Badaru, and the Group Chief Executive Officer, GCEO, of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company, NNPC Limited. In a related development, Governor Siminalayi Fubara yesterday criticized the federal government for awarding the contract for the protection of crude oil pipelines to one man. Fubara spoke when a federal government delegation on the security of oil and gas assets led by the National Security Advisor (NSA) Nuhu Ribadu visited him at the government house in Port Harcourt, the state capital. In August 2022, the Group Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian National Petroleum Company (NNPC) Limited, Mele Kyari, had justified the government's decision to award a multi-billion naira pipeline surveillance contract to Tantita Security Services, led by former militant leader Government Ekpemepolo, aka Tom Polo. Though the Rivers governor did not mention any name, he said the strategy of the federal government will not yield the expected results, as an individual cannot have control over the assets in another's territory. Fubara, who decried the neglect of the state by the federal government, called on the delegation to ensure that the outcome of their task would be beneficial to both the federal and the state governments. He advised them to engage the people at the grassroots to better appreciate the situation in the Niger Delta area. In a separate development, the Niger Delta Development Commission said it had begun discussions with French and German development agencies to propel job creation and boost farmers' productivity in the Niger Delta region. The NDDC Managing Director, Dr. Samuel Obuku, said this when he led a high-level delegation on a two-day visit to the French Development Agency and the German Development Agency offices in Abuja. This was contained in a statement issued in Port Harcourt on Saturday and signed by the NDDC Director, Corporate Affairs Pius Ugakbonteni. In the company of the MD were the NDDC Executive Director for Finance and Administration, Major General Charles Ariavari, retired, the Executive Director of Projects, Charles Ogunmola, and Export in Partnerships, Dr. Uche Igwe, and several directors from the NDDC. During the visit, Dr. Obuku highlighted the NDDC's eagerness to explore innovative funding mechanisms and secure technical expertise for impactful projects. He emphasized the Commission's intention to leverage international best practices and ingenious solutions to effectively address developmental challenges prevailing in the Niger Delta. The NDDC boss underlined the Commission's commitment to its mandate of enhancing the quality of life for Niger Delta people. Away from that, the Nigerian Army has called on huge social media influencers, bloggers and other content creators to always put national interest above any other interest when creating contents and making posts on social media platforms. The call was made by the General Officer Commanding GOC, 8th Division, Major General Godwin Mutkat, at a one-day training organized by the Nigerian Army for social media influencers in Benin Kebbi, the Kebbi state capital. Major General Mutkat, who was represented by the Chief of Staff of 8th Division, Brigadier General Shehu Saidu, said the military has keyed into the use of social media to enlighten the society on its activities. The training was aimed at improving national security and military-civilian relations. The Army said it will work with the civilian communities by maintaining and promoting harmonious relationship to build an enabling environment for the attainment of sustainable peace and improved national security. In politics now, amidst protests from some members of the party from Kogi, Abia and Cross River states, the All Progressives Congress APC has sworn in 6 new officials to fill vacant positions in the National Working Committee and WC of the party. There was a failed attempt to swear in the officials on Thursday night following the protests from Kogi State Governor Yahaya Bello and other stakeholders from Abia and Cross River. However, the officials were sworn in on Friday night. The oaths of allegiance and office were administered on the new officials by Barrister Mustafa Abubakar, a notary public. Those sworn in were the Deputy National Chairman, North, Ali Buka Dalori, Borno State; National Vice Chairman, Northwest, Garba Dati Mohammed, Kaduna State; National Legal Advisor, Professor Abdul Karim Abubakar Kana, Nasarawa State; National Welfare Secretary, Donatus Nwampa, Abia State; National Women Leader, Mary Alile Dele, PhD, Edo State; and the Deputy National Publicity Secretary, Duro Meseko, Kogi State. An earlier nominee for the North Central Zonal, Ikani Okolo, was, however, dropped to placate the Kogi State Governor, whose nominee for the office of Deputy National Publicity Secretary, Ismail Yahaya, was dropped. APC National Chairman Abdullahi Ganduje, who acknowledged that the party has taken serious notice of Bello's objection and the grievances of those who lost out in Abia and Cross River states, explained that they would be considered for appointments as a way of satisfying all the aggrieved members. Away from that now, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party PDP in the 2023 election, Atiku Abubakar, has said the purported errors discovered in the certificate of President Bola Tinubu validates his discovery. Media reports have it that Tinubu's lawyers had on Wednesday, in response to the petition of Atiku in a federal court in Chicago, Illinois, United States, agreed that there are errors in the academic certificates presented to Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) by the president, and blamed those errors on the clerk of the Chicago State University (CSU). In a statement issued on Saturday, the former vice president said documents submitted by his lawyers in the United States and Nigeria showed disturbing discrepancies and circumstantial fallacies in Tinubu's academic records from the university. One of the documents, for instance, is a certified true copy of the certificate submitted by Tinubu to INEC on 17th June 2022. And according to Atiku's lawyers, this purportedly is the certificate issued to him by Chicago State University (CSU), showing that he attended the school and evidencing the degree he was awarded. However, the interesting thing upon further examination of these documents is that while they all speak to the same subject, Tinubu's academic qualifications from the Chicago State University, they all bear different details. In Cross River State, following the sexual harassment allegations leveled against suspended Dean of the Faculty of Law at the University of Calabar, Unicor, Professor Cyril Ndifan, the Vice-Chancellor VC of the University, Professor Florence Obi, has said that the management of the school carried out a clean sweep of the law faculty, ensuring that all the principal officers of the faculty are women. The Unicor VC spoke during a televised interview where she said the school management has put in place measures to curtail cases of sexual harassment between lecturers and students of the institution. Some female law students at the faculty had staged a protest and accused Ndifan of sexual harassment. Subsequently, the university management suspended Ndifan and constituted a panel to investigate the allegations against the embattled law professor. Commenting on the matter yesterday, the Vice-Chancellor said the panel constituted to probe the matter would do justice on it. Still to come in the news. Naira ends week on negative note. Let's stay with us.
Every society is premised on the quality of relationships forged by its inhabitants. The health of these relationships determines how well people, relationships, organizations thrive and how long they stick together. Join Uyai Anyekan on Connect every Wednesday from 6 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. and on Sunday 2:30 to 3 p.m. on channel 421 on Star Times to catch all the conversations, interviews, real stories on how to navigate relationships and family life in the 21st century. Real people, real faces, real stories. Connect live on Spectrum Television.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Well, thanks for staying tuned. As we move on now to Africa, where the Niger junta has ordered its armed forces to go on the highest alert, citing an increased threat of attack. This was according to an internal document issued by its defense chief that a security source in the country confirmed was authentic. According to media, the document, which was shared online yesterday, said the order to be on maximum alert would allow forces to respond adequately in case of any attack and avoid a general surprise. Meanwhile, the president of the Economic Community of West African States, Commission Omar Toure, on Friday said the sub-regional body has neither declared war on the people of Niger Republic nor planned to invade the country. Meanwhile, Niger's school leaders gave the French ambassador 48 hours to leave the country as bilateral ties continue to deteriorate rapidly. The junta said Sylvain Ite had refused to respond to an invitation to meet Niger's foreign minister. France, a former colonial power, said the Butkists have no authority to order such an expulsion. Paris opposes July's coup, saying that ousted President Mohamed Bazoum must be returned to office. Friday's announcement was made by Niger's foreign minister installed by the junta. This follows a series of statements and demonstrations hostile towards France. The French foreign ministry responded by saying that it had taken note of the podcasts. In the meantime, the coup leader, General Abdurrahman Chiani, has signed an order allowing the fellow military governments of Mali and Burkina Faso to send their troops into his country to help defend against an attack. The announcement was made after the foreign ministers of Burkina Faso, Olivier Ruamba, and Mali, Abdoulaye Diop, visited General Chiani in Niamey. Reports say that the West African regional bloc, ECOWAS, has threatened to use force to reinstate the democratically elected president of Niger, Mohamed Bazoum, who was deposed by a group of army officers last month. It's been trying to negotiate with the coup leaders, but has warned it is ready to send troops if diplomacy fails. Away from that, the head of Kenya's Airports Authority has been sacked after a power cut left passengers stranded in darkness for hours at Nairobi's main airport. Alex Gitari was fired by Transport Minister Kipchumba Murkomen, who has apologized for the chaos. He added that political interference had resulted in a demoralized and disorganized workforce. The majority state-owned power company has not explained exactly what caused the countrywide power cut. Although some areas have seen power restored, homes and businesses across much of the country are still affected by the outage that began on Friday. Tourism is a key part of Kenya's economy, accounting for about 10% of GDP at the last count by government. The sector is also one of the East African nation's top sources of hard currency. In a separate development, voting has taken place in the oil-rich Central African nation of Gabon, where President Ali Bongo, who came to power when his father Omar died in 2009, is hoping to win a third term. He faces competition from 13 people. As polls closed, the government announced a curfew and suspension of internet access for security reasons. On Saturday, main opposition candidate Albert Ondo Osa had complained that many polling stations lacked ballot papers bearing his name. Ondo Osa, a former economics professor and one-time education minister, was appointed as leader of the Alternance 2023 coalition just last week. The coalition says the names of some of those who have withdrawn from the presidential race are still on the ballot sheet. As in previous general elections, there are serious concerns about the process. On the foreign scene now, one of Ukraine's most celebrated fighter pilots and two other airmen have been killed in a mid-air crash. Andriy Pilchikov won fame taking part in dogfights over Kiev during the early phase of Russia's invasion. The Ukrainian military called the airmen's deaths painful and irreparable losses and paid tribute to Pilchikov as a pilot with mega knowledge and mega talent. The crash involved two L-39 training planes flying over northern Ukraine. An investigation is underway into whether flight preparation rules were not correctly followed, resulting in Friday's crash in Zhytomyr Oblast. The region is west of the capital, Kiev, and hundreds of miles from the front line. President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed the deaths in his nightly video address, saying that his country would never forget anyone who defended the free skies of Ukraine. The next story we have is President Vladimir Putin calling on all employees of Wagner and other Russian private military contractors to take an oath of allegiance to the Russian state. The decree applies to anyone participating in military activities in Ukraine, assisting the army and serving in territorial defense units. He signed the decree on Friday with immediate effect. and it comes 2 days after Wagner leaders were presumed killed in a plane crash. In a separate development on Saturday, a far-right sub-unit of Wagner known as Rusich said it was stopping military operations in Ukraine. In a telegram post, Rusich accused Russia's foreign ministry of failing to protect a founding member of the group, Jan Petrovsky, who has been arrested in Finland for visa violations and is facing extradition to Ukraine. Analysts suggest Putin's decree is part of attempts to reassert his authority following Wagner's mutiny in June. Away from that, the Danish government presented a bill on Friday that could lead to a ban on burning the Quran in public. Denmark's Foreign Minister Lars Løkke Rasmussen told Danish radio that the move sends an important political signal to the rest of the world. Burning a Quran under the new law would be an act punishable by fines or up to 2 years in prison. Peter Hummelgaard, the Justice Minister, explained that the proposed law is intended to be written into the same regulation that currently bans the desecration of other countries' flags. The Danish law will prohibit the improper treatment of objects of significant religious significance to a religious community. Hummelgaard, speaking at a press conference, said that a spate of recent Quran burnings were senseless taunts aimed to incite discord and hatred, adding that national security was the primary motivation for the ban. Moving on now, police are investigating the deaths of 88 people in the United Kingdom who allegedly bought substances to assist with suicide from Canadian websites. The probe is part of international inquiries sparked by the arrest in Canada this year of Kenneth Law, who has been charged with 2 counts of counseling and aiding suicide. Canadian police say Law, who is from the Toronto area, used a series of websites to market and sell sodium nitrate, a substance commonly used to cure meats that can be deadly if ingested. Police said Law is suspected of sending at least 1,200 packages to more than 40 countries. Authorities in the United States, Italy, Australia, and New Zealand also have launched investigations. Away from that, thieves in Switzerland have conquered one of the country's most challenging protected climbing routes. They ascended to an altitude of 2,350 meters and traversed gorges on narrow steel cables, all to rob a collection box. The box belongs to a local climbing club, which maintains Switzerland's longest protected climbing route on the Gemmi Pass above Leucharbad village. What has caused the biggest shock is that the donation box is accessible only to the most experienced climbers. The route, known as a Via Ferrata, is classed as level 5, the most difficult, and involves serious climbing, as well as ascending ladders bolted into the vertical rock face and traversing gorges on narrow steel cables. Those who discovered the theft believe it was carefully planned well in advance. The donation box was found smashed open and empty. The climbing club said the thieves were not only good climbers, equipped with all the necessary mountaineering kit, they took the tools with them to break open the donation box with brute force. Away from that, an Israeli former principal will spend up to 15 years in jail for sexually assaulting 2 students at an ultra-Orthodox Jewish school in Australia. Malka Leifer raped and indecently assaulted sisters Darcy Ehrlich and Ellie Sapper between 2003 and 2007, a jury found in April. The 56-year-old was found not guilty of abusing a 3rd sister, Nicole Mayer. Leifer's sentencing ends a 15-year push for the mother of 8 to face justice. She had pleaded not guilty to more than 2 dozen charges and spent years fighting extradition from Israel. But in 2021, an Israeli judge found she had faked mental illness to avoid facing the courts and ordered she be sent to Melbourne. During a lengthy trial, the jury heard evidence that Leifer had abused the sisters in locked classrooms, on school camps, and at the head teacher's home. Detailing the 18 charges on Thursday, Judge Mark Gamble called her offending insidious. Away from that, Taiwan president will next month visit Eswatini, its only African ally, as she seeks to reinforce ties between the two nations. She will attend celebrations to mark the country's Independence Day and King Mswati III's birthday during the visit. Her trip between 5 and 7 September will also mark 55 years of the country's bilateral relations. According to reports, Taiwan is claimed by China as its own territory with no right to state-to-state relations. It has formal ties with only 13 countries, including Eswatini. Taiwan Deputy Foreign Minister Roy Lee is quoted as telling reporters that the Taiwanese president's visit is not to compete with Chinese President Xi Jinping's visit to neighboring South Africa this week. Tsai last visited Eswatini in 2018. It is the only African country that maintains diplomatic relations with the Asian island after Burkina Faso switched to China in May 2018. In Japan now, Japan has begun releasing treated radioactive water from the Fukushima plant into the Pacific Ocean 12 years after a nuclear meltdown. The UN's atomic regulator says the discharge is safe and will have negligible impact on humans and the environment. But China has slapped a ban on Japanese seafood, and there have been protests in Japan and South Korea. Meanwhile, Japan says it has filtered the water to one main radioactive isotope, tritium. Now in business, the Naira depreciated against the dollar on Friday as it exchanged at 778.42 Naira at the investors and exporters window. The Naira lost by 0.87% compared to the 771.69 Naira it exchanged for the dollar on Thursday. The open indicative rate closed at 773.29 Naira to the dollar on Friday. A spot exchange rate of 799.90 Naira to the dollar was the highest rate recorded within the day's trading before it settled at 778.42 Naira. The Naira sold for as low as 700 Naira to the dollar within the day's trading. A total of $73.80 million was traded at the investors and exporters window on Friday. Moving on now, the Securities and Exchange Commission (SEC) says that the unclaimed dividends figure in the nation's capital market currently stands at 190 billion Naira. Lamido Yuguda, the Director General of SEC, said this at the second Post-Capital Market Committee (CMC) media briefing in Abuja on Friday. He said the figure increased due to issues concerning identity management in the country. Yuguda also attributed the rising figure to multiple subscriptions by investors during banking consolidation and identity management. Yuguda, however, said the Commission was working with the Nigeria Interbank Settlement System (NIBSS) on the e-dividend portal. He added that the SEC was working with NIBSS to make changes to the electronic dividend portal, currently going through some form of upgrading and repair. More on business news. Equity markets rose again Thursday after soft U.S. and European economic data soothed recent fears that central banks will hike rates further, while tech firms were given a boost by forecast bursting earnings from AI chip titan NVIDIA. Traders have spent most of August fretting that the Federal Reserve will be forced to tighten monetary policy further, owing to a string of reports pointing to a resilient U.S. economy and jobs market. The news that U.S. factory activity continued to shrink in August, while the key services sector was weaker than predicted, was seen as allowing policymakers to take a step back, with borrowing costs already at a two-decade high. Expectations for jobs growth in August were also scaled back, providing some much-needed relief to investors, while U.S. Treasury yields retreated from around 15-year highs. The picture in the Eurozone was equally poor, with the purchasing managers' indexes for manufacturing and services both contracting. Still to come in the news. Manchester United rally from 2-0 down to beat 10-man Nottingham Forest at Old Trafford. Do stay with us.
Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Hebrew.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court,
Is
my
this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in cross-examination.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
Many thanks for staying tuned. Now in health, the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention (NCDC) says it is monitoring the new subvariants of the Omicron variant of the SARS-CoV-2 virus named EG5 and BA2.86. In a statement, the health agency said its COVID-19 technical working group has been monitoring emerging variants from local to global level. The agency said preventive actions remained the same as before: good hand hygiene, testing, vaccination, and use of masks. The EG5 subvariants has been reported in 51 countries, including China, the United States of America, the Republic of Korea, Japan, Canada, Australia, Singapore, the United Kingdom, France, Portugal, and Spain. The World Health Organization (WHO) has classified EG5 as a variant of interest (VOI) and conducted a risk assessment which found this new variant poses a low risk at the global level. EG5 causes symptoms like those seen with other COVID-19 variants, including fever, cough, shortness of breath, fatigue, muscle aches, headache, and sore throat. So far, only one case of EG5 has been seen in Africa. It has not been identified in Nigeria. The NCDC said, adding that although BA2 has been previously found in Nigeria, no BA2.86 variant has been identified in the country. Away from that, the Benue State chapter of the Nigerian Medical Association (NMA) has suspended the indefinite strike it declared on Friday over the abduction of their colleague Dr. Sema Mswega in the Ukum local government area. This was contained in a communique issued at the end of its emergency general meeting held on Saturday in Makadi. The NMA said it was highly elated by the release of their colleague from captivity by his abductors and directed their colleagues working in the flashpoints of violence in Ukum local government area to leave their duty posts until further notice. The statement added that the association is assessing the situation and will communicate further instructions as soon as possible. The statement signed by the Secretary, Dr. Ahmed Godwin, acknowledged the sacrifices made by members during the trying period and the understanding of the public, which was pivotal to the release of Mswega. Reported sources told media that Mswega, who works at the Ukum General Hospital in Zakibiam, was freed from the kidnappers on Friday night after a month and 3 days due to much pressure on them by security agencies who were closing in on them in their hideout. When contacted on the development, Benue PPRO Catherine Anene reportedly confirmed the release of the Dr. Asema Mswega. Still in health, the death toll from the diphtheria disease outbreak in Bauchi has risen to 26, with 180 suspected cases recorded so far across the state. Recall reports that 5 students died of suspected diphtheria in Jamare local government area in July. The executive chairman of the Bauchi State Primary Health Care Development Agency, Dr. Rilwanu Mohammed, disclosed this on Friday while giving an update on the state's diphtheria outbreak during a USAID IHP one-day media engagement on the 2023 Bauchi State Budget performance held in Bauchi. He said out of the number of deaths, 4 were confirmed diphtheria cases, while the remaining 22 exhibited signs, symptoms and complications of diphtheria following the results of tests conducted. Rilwanu said further that the suspected cases are being investigated to ascertain the confirmed cases. The chairman said more that the state has commenced a vaccination exercise in some local government areas to contain the outbreak. Now in sports, Bruno Fernandes's penalty completed the comeback as Manchester United fought back from 2-0 down to beat 10-man Nottingham Forest at Old Trafford, thus winning the game 3-2 at the final whistle. Steve Cooper's team had stunned the home side with goals from Taiwo Awoniyi and Willy Bowley inside the opening 4 minutes. In other Premier League fixtures yesterday, Arsenal drew Fulham 2-2, while Tottenham beat Bournemouth 2-0. Wolves beat Everton 1-0, while Brentford drew Crystal Palace 1-0. In a separate Premier League tie, West Ham United executed their game plan perfectly to continue an unbeaten start and stun Brighton with a clinical counter-attacking display. In the words of goal scorer James Ward-Prowse, the win means West Ham ended the day top of the Premier League on goals scored, although Manchester City and Liverpool could both leap above them with wins today. Ward-Prowse opened the scoring with his first Hammers goal when he tapped in from 2 yards out in the 19th minute after good work from Michael Antonio. Jarrod Bowen added a second for the visitors in the 58th minute, bringing down Said Ben Rama's cross before poking the ball into the corner. And though Brighton continually dominated possession and territory, Bowen set up Antonio to drill a shot into the corner for the away side's third in the 63rd minute. The Seagulls scored a late consolation goal when Pascal Gross's drive effort found the far corner, but David Moyes' men survived a late surge of Brighton pressure to go on to victory. So in sports, FIFA suspended Luis Rubiales as president of Spain's Football Federation yesterday for kissing Spanish Women's World Cup player Jenny Hermoso on the lips and banned him from making contact with her. FIFA's suspension of Spanish Federation RFEF President Rubiales will last 90 days while they undertake disciplinary proceedings against the 46-year-old. Meanwhile, Spain's entire coaching staff from their World Cup win, except for manager George Vilda, have resigned over the Luis Rubiales role. Assistant managers Montse Torme, Javier Lerger and Eugenio Gonzalo Martin, along with Fisio Blanca Romero Moraledo and goalkeeper coach Carlos Sanchez, have all quit. 6 others involved with the national side at various age levels have also resigned. In a statement, the coaching staff said those named below expressed their firm and resounding condemnation of the conduct shown by the RFEF president. More reports are from Spain now has it that entire coaching staff from their World Cup win, except for manager George Vilda, resigned over the losing